Hey guys, Tempest here. Just a friendly Canadian reminder to keep force spying, and you're watching Thorin's YouTube.
When you had this time period where the final moves that sort of set in place, the really good team came along, where you got in Liazz and Gratisfaction, right? This actually, I don't think people know how controversial this move was at the time, because even though the rest of the history of Renegades and stuff years before was always like, take the next best Australian player, bring him in, cut the one that you think's like a bit washed, and gradually try and funnel all the talent up. At this time, the actual perception from the outside, at least, was you guys sort of escaped Australian Counter-Strike, and there weren't many good players left, and more, especially like no one was looking at people like Gratisfaction, for example. He wasn't really like bouncing off everyone's radars, etc. Most people thought, just like you did with Naf and Jacob, you should just keep picking international players. Like, no point going back to the old well, as it was. So at the time, I know this move was like, some people thought you were almost like giving up, like, nah, whatever, we'll just recruit some guys from back home. What was the logic of getting these players? Because obviously it did turn out to actually be a pretty good move.
Actually, I think at the time, I don't think we necessarily picked those players to join us. I think we thought that they were good players, but I don't think we thought that they were going to be like the best fit for the team. And like you said, I think we actually wanted to continue going to the international route, you know, picking up international players and doing all that. But I think at the time, Renegades, they didn't want to spend a lot of money, and these two players were obviously the best in our region, and they just wanted to cut back on some of the costs because I don't think we're doing too well. And they just picked up those players, and we weren't like disappointed or angry about it or anything like that. We were angry at the fact that they did it like that without telling us, the organization. But we got along really well, like pretty much straight away. And I don't exactly remember the tournament results that we had with them straight after. I don't think they were like. Actually, no, they actually were pretty good. I think we made playoffs at Starladder, at one of the Starladder events. So yeah, that actually did click pretty fast. But it was kind of unexpected when we got those players. But it was one of those things where like it wasn't really our choice, but it worked out, and I think that the players made it work out. Like, I think that we got along really well together, and we functioned really well as a team. And those two guys, like, they're super easy to work with. And I think just the way that like everyone meshed on the team was just like really good. And obviously, I had come back to like being in my comfortable spot in the team, and I was super confident in like the way that I was playing, even though our results weren't that good. And picking up two guys like that from the region back home, it's more like you can kind of tell them what to do, and they'll pretty much listen to you because, you know, you're the top team from the region. Obviously, if they're joining us, they're going to be like super receptive to what you're going to say. They're going to be super motivated to play well. You know, like this is kind of their chance. So in a way, it definitely did work out like that, at least when they first joined.
As you referenced, one of the tournaments that you had a big result in was you made top 4 at Star Series. And this was back when all the top teams were going to these Star Series tournaments. And especially for me, the format made it super sturdy. It was a full Swiss system with best of 3 in every match. So there's no easy matches in theory, right? What would you say
like
about this run?
Home sweet home. Kind of back in the day.
Yeah, quite similar actually. What would you say about this run? Because this must have already, it's kind of like an omen, like if this team gets its shit together, it could do something, right?
So after this run at the event, I think we were like really surprised when we made playoffs, and I think everyone was playing super well, and everyone was really happy with each other. It was our first event together, or one of our first events together, and I think it was a really good experience to know that, like, you know, we can beat good teams with this much practice under our belt. Like, we didn't have that much at all, and I think after that, I think we lost in the playoffs straight away. I can't remember who to. Maybe it was like Optic or something like that, the Danish roster. I'm not quite certain, but. Even when we lost that game, it was like, you know, whatever, we made playoffs, like it's our first event together and we have so much more to build on. And I think it was just like one of the first stepping stones to becoming like the team that we were later on. And I think it was a really good experience for Liazz and Gratisfaction because obviously they hadn't ever been to that point before. They, like, even though it wasn't a massive event or anything like that, they never did anything like that before. So I think it gave them a bit of confidence as well. And I think it made everyone on the team believe in each other, and, you know, we can actually do some damage as this team.
Yeah, I actually had it mixed up there. You're talking about the one from the year before. That's right, where you made the playoffs and you played the Optic team. I meant the one the year after, where it was like you played Na'Vi in the semi-finals and like you beat FaZe Clan and stuff.
No, I remember
that was the one that kind of like hinted the team could actually be like obviously a top 10 team and could do real playoff performances, right?
Yeah, no, that one. I think that one was after the major, right? After IM Katowice, 2019. I think.
Yes.
we were super like at that point we were super confident. Like we were like having a high. Like we were in there, and I think at the time I was like having a really good period of myself in the way that I was playing, and I was like I just felt I could do anything pretty much. And it's when we had like that result, it was kind of like weird because at the end of the year before that, I don't think we were doing too well. We played like a bunch of crappy lands, and then eventually we went to Pro League, Odense, which was 2018, and that was the same roster. And I think after that, at that time, during that Pro League, I was getting, well, before that, I was getting contacted by C9, and I was down to join that team. I don't think I was having a good period in Renegades, and I just felt like I needed a change, and that was quite a long time after we got Liazz and Gratisfaction, not straight away, and I don't think Renegades agreed to a buyout or anything like that. I was like, oh, this is shit, I was like super, like just like demotivated, I guess you could say. And then we went and played that Pro League, and I had a really good event. I don't know what it was. I think it was just like I kind of just like gave it my everything, because after that I thought I was just gonna like bench myself or something like that, or like quit or something. Like just I had like that kind of mindset, and I played really good. And then obviously after that we went and played the minor, then the major and all that, and we had like a really good period with each other. I think the major, the Katowice major, was actually a turning point in that team, because from Odense we knew that we could do damage. We made playoffs, and we had a really close game versus Mouse. We easily could have made the semis, and then we played that. We played like the online qualifier in Australia, then we played the minor in Katowice, and then we played the main stage in Katowice, then we played the legend stage in Katowice, and then we made the playoffs of the major. Like we had that whole month period where we were just playing game after game after game at LAN, and it was like a really good period for us. And I think everyone from that event forward, I think Starladder was the one that you're talking about. The Starladder was the event after that, and so we had this like a really big confidence boost from all of that. And yeah, that was definitely a really good time, because I think when you looked at the stats of the team, we were all playing individually. Like they were all like super close. We were playing good as a team. It wasn't just like someone was just carrying the whole team. And yeah, I think we just had like a really good vibe in the team. Everyone was on the same page.
On the topic of that major, this was also the one where, like, obviously to make top 8 of the major is a big deal if it's the first time in your career. But this is the one where when people look back now, they're going to get the dates wrong, and they're going to go, oh, you lost to MIBR, no big deal. Like, on paper, your team was supposed to actually beat MIBR and be in the semis against Astralis, right?
Yeah, I think after like all those games that we played, I think we beat so many good teams on the way to that game. And I just remember like, well, I think we were the only team that major to take a map off Astralis.
Yes,
I believe. And yeah, to make that stage, I think it was like if we had experience before that, and we had like stage experience before that as a team, I think we probably would have beat MIBR. But I think because we're on that stage, it's just one of those things where like, it's a major, your playoff stage. Everyone's dream was to play on that stage. It was I Am Katowice. At least it was my dream since like 2014, whatever it was, when I was in the crowd back then. And then to make that, it was like there was a lot of pressure. It's like you play the game differently. It's like the sounds are different. You see people in the stage and stuff like that, and just like everything's very different when you play a game like that. And I don't think we played super well in either of those games versing them, and I think we kind of got blown out, and it's kind of a disappointment. I think everyone was like super bummed after. But I think it was just one of those things where like we didn't have any experience playing on a stage, because I think at the next major at Starladder we did have experience and we played super good on playoffs. And I think we should have even made the finals, honestly. But yeah, it was just one of those things where like we didn't have the correct experience to go far.
After this, even though, as you say, you had this whole tournament period where like one tournament after another, results are coming, things are looking really good. You had what must have been a massive bomber when you had this situation come up with Gratisfactions, like visa status, and you couldn't come to the US. And then for this whole period of tournaments, because again, as I alluded to before, it's not like you're a team that goes home constantly to Australia. Basically, you have to just do all these tournaments in a row in short notice with standings. Like you're not in a situation where you've got the real team, right? In that scenario, it's one thing if you play like one tournament, right? You just go, well, whatever, mate, you do this stuff here, let's see if it works out. If it doesn't, whatever. If it does, fuck it, for this one event, we'll roll with it. It must be a bit depressing when it's like, on the one hand, that's not going to be a permanent replacement, so you sort of wasted a bit of time with it, and it's not as good as the real line. Like, how do you manage that? Because it seems like that, like, I've basically heard, if the Starladder result hadn't have gone the way it did, it might have just killed the team. Yeah,
I don't think it would have killed the team. Oh, wait, do you mean the major or the?
Yeah, I mean, if the next major after that had gone badly, would it have just killed the team completely to to get nothing out of it?
Yeah, I thought you were talking about the Starladder before that. I think the major, yeah, it definitely from that period it was definitely a weird period. I think after that, if we bombed out that major, I think we would have made changes for sure. And that thing with the visa, it was just honestly, it was just super draining. And it was very unfortunate because I think the visa issue happened after we placed like 4th at the Starladder before that. I'm pretty sure, and then obviously we have to play all these events and shit, and all these things are going wrong. We can't get like proper practice, and it's like that was just after we placed like top 8 at the major, then we placed top 4 at that Starladder. Like we kept building on that. Maybe it could have been completely different, you know. But yeah, like you said, it was just like super draining to play standards and stuff because of those reasons. And I'm pretty sure after that Starladder where we came 4th and we lost to Navi, not the major but the regular tournament, I think we had IM Sydney, and I think we just bummed out in that as well. So not only do we have visa issues, we bombed out of IM Sydney after that. It kind of felt like 2017, not as bad, but kind of felt like that. And the issues, the reason for that wasn't even like our fault. It was because of the visa issues and stuff like that. We couldn't get any practice. And like I remember like Sean came to IM Sydney like the night before our first game or something like that. He traveled from like I can't remember where he traveled from, but he had like a massive layover and all this shit. Like he wasn't traveling from Australia, he was traveling from somewhere else, like the US or something like that. And yeah, it's just unfortunate that like all these things happened because I think that period after IM Sydney, we had like all those bad events, like you said, with stand-ins. And if we didn't do good at the major, then we probably would have made changes. But we had a boot camp like 2 weeks before the Berlin major. Everyone had like a break before that as well, so everyone was like super refreshed. And I think yeah, it was kind of like the team that you saw at the start of the year where we played the major and the really good playoff series versus Navi and stuff in Starladder.
When I saw during the online period for the last year and a half, a bunch of the NA teams, publicly and privately, loads, start grumbling about the fact that they had to come to Europe and stay for a few months and they couldn't just go straight back after the tournament. The first thing I thought of was your team and the Brazilian teams, which obviously like relocated completely to another continent and just stayed in NA. And basically, I mean, it wasn't obviously the same as having all the lockdowns and stuff, but you were pretty isolated. Like, again, you had to just be there for long stretches of time. In your cases, sometimes only going back to like get a new visa, update your passport, whatever. Right? What I want to know is this. Obviously, it's implied with those players and teams in the modern day, like they found it really hard mentally. Like it was a strain to be away from home. It was pressure to know that, you know, if you do like bad on the first 3 tournaments of this run, fuck, why even play the 4th? But you know, that vibe that's going on. How did you guys handle it for so long? How did you personally handle it all those years being away from home in that sense?
Yeah. I don't think we handled it well. I think I think if we had a similar, like we could have complained like those guys did, you know what I mean? But I don't think we did. I think we definitely went through like a similar experience to what they went through. I don't think it's going to be easy for anyone. Maybe depending on where you come from, like where your home is back home, I think it might be a little bit different. But you know, when you have your family and you live in a nice place and you have all your friends and stuff, obviously it sucks to leave them, but it's like one of those things where like it just is what it is, you know. Like we live so far away, like we can't control that, and it's just like one of those things that we just have to deal with, and it's definitely sucks. Every now and then you can complain about it, but you're also getting paid to play a video game, and for me at least, it was like a lifelong dream at least to go overseas, play for a team, and get paid and stuff like that. And eventually it happened. So like every now and then you kind of just have to remind yourself, you know, like would you be like back then when you were at home and you had to play versus the Australian teams and you couldn't play versus any international teams and it wasn't that fun? Would you be complaining then about all this stuff? Probably not, right? So it's kind of just about perspective and just like knowing that like this is an opportunity and obviously it sucks, but there's also like a lot of positives to it. And like obviously if I didn't want to play, I could just bench myself or quit or go back home or something like that. But once you do that, once you hop off that train and you go back home, it's really hard to find another team. So it's just one of those things that you kind of just have to deal with, and hopefully along the way it's smooth. It's not like bumpy, like there's no visa issues and stuff like that. You just kind of have to hope that it's all good. And yeah, I think it's one of those things. It's just the sacrifice that you make to play.
At that Katowice major, your team, as you alluded to, was completely rolling basically until the stage and until you played MIBR. Like, as you said, you even took a map off Prime Astralis at the time when basically they were almost unbeatable.
Yep.
But at this next major, the Berlin major, with all these issues in mind that we just talked about, with not having the right lineup and then getting the team together late, etc. And then if people don't remember, there was also that really bizarre element where, I don't know why players would vote this, but they did vote to have the major directly after the player break. So everyone's in like either weird form, or sometimes you don't even know if they've practiced. Actually, some people famously, you don't know the hours they have in the game. When you came to this major, it wasn't like the Katowice one. You weren't just rolling through it. Like, you guys had to scrap just to even make it to the playoffs. Like, I'm sure there was probably a point where you wondered if it was over, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think, like I said before, we came off a break, so I think that definitely helped us. That we had so many shit months before that with stand-ins and all that crap. We went home, came back refreshed. We all had one goal. We knew that after it, if we didn't do well, then we'd probably make some changes, and that's it. So I think it definitely helped that we had such like a narrow perspective, or like vision at least, whatever you want to call it. We weren't really looking to like anything beyond that, and yeah, I think that definitely helped us. Obviously, it doesn't help that we had to travel and then go overseas and stuff, but I think it was fine. We traveled like 2 weeks before. I think that kind of made our break a little bit shorter, the player break, and we only had like 2 weeks or something to spend at home, because then after that we went to Poland to boot camp before the major. So going on to the actual major though, I think we were down like 0-2 in groups or something like that, and it was actually pretty funny because when we were down 0-2, we're like, you know, we could have won both these games. I think we lost versus Energy and we lost versus Venga, and I think it was like 16-14, 13, 16-14, 16-13, I think both those games. And then we were like, oh, this fuck, you know, we could have won both these games. We could be in a really good spot right now. And then we're kind of joking around about it after, and we're like, if we win and we make 3-2, we're all going to get a tattoo or something like that. We like made something stupid like that, because it was just like, we thought like it wasn't going to be really possible. And then we made the reverse comeback. We made 3-2, and then we beat, I think we were super happy after. Like, it was just like unreal to us. And then after that, I don't think we were like, it wasn't like before in the previous major where like, all right, we made playoffs. This is incredible. We've already been in that spot before in Starladder. We made playoffs and we're like, okay, it's time to go further. Let's go. And then we played Ents, and I don't think they were at like full strength at the time. I think Alexi B was leaving afterwards, but I think they were still like a pretty good team. And I think we played versus them at least. I think we played really well as a team. I think we dominated them like the entire series, and it felt really good. And then obviously after that we played a Vanguard, and it was like a super close series on Mirage. And then it was kind of a blowout on Dust 2, but I think that's just because we lost Mirage. It kind of took like the wind out of our sails. We kind of just like felt a bit deflated from that previous map. But I think if we definitely won Mirage, I think we had a really good chance of being in the finals. And it's just like, it's crazy to think about back then, you know, like from like all the shit that we went through, like over the last like year, and then we made semis at the major, we could have been in the finals, like an Australian team in the major finals. It's like unheard of, you know what I mean? So it's definitely nice to think about, and it is a bit bittersweet, but yeah, I think even though the result was disappointing in the end, like you can't really not be proud of like the result in the end and like how we played, because before that we were facing like roster changes, you know? So
Right. One thing that was interesting is obviously after this time period, it wasn't very long before the team became 100 Thieves. You joined that different organisation, etc. Right. Was that actually significant? Because one thing we haven't really touched on for obvious reasons earlier in the story is the Renegades organisation, which originally came along when it was actually my mate Monty Crystal from League of Legends just made like a league team, and then he got a CSGO team shortly after, I think. And then obviously he wasn't owning it by this point in time. This is years later now. Right. The Renegades org, as far as I know, like it went through a bunch of different ownership groups, etc. It never got obviously as to the level of some of the huge orgs in the world where you see them like, you know, those like Forbes magazines where like it's valued at 400 million, and you're like, is it? But okay, fair enough, it's TSM or whatever, you know. 100 Thieves is more in that category, right? It's more one of these orgs where it's a massive org. Sometimes even the figures involved in the org are bigger than the players and the teams, right? To get an offer like this, I've heard at the time there was a bunch of different people potentially interested, etc. When you made this move, was the idea that like, right, now we're going to the big time by joining this org? Does it matter what org you play, and if the team's good? What's your perspective on it?
Back then, I remember we had a few orgs who were interested in us. I think back then it was TSM. I think Gen G also, and I can't remember who else.
EG maybe.
Maybe I'm actually quite sure. I can't remember. It might have been, yeah. I'm not too sure, but I know those two were the main ones. And then we the reason why we went with 100 Thieves was because we'd been with Renegades for so long, and like you said, Renegades was one of the smaller orgs, and we didn't really. We felt like their brand was like huge, you know, and we felt we trusted the people who owned the org, and we thought like this was a big step for us. Like we could, it was still some other teams, like some lesser teams that, well, not lesser, but like smaller orgs, which would have wanted to pick us up, but I think we wanted to join like an org that was big at the time. You know, we never had that before, and we wanted like to see what it was like and have like all that exposure and just like have like a massive org around us, something that could provide us like anything that we wanted and all that. And I think that's why we went with 100 Thieves, and we really liked like the way that they approached things. We liked the brand. We thought it was like really cool, and obviously they had big people like Nadeshot and stuff. And yeah, that's basically it. And it was also like a cool org because they didn't really have a CS team, but like I know they had the Brazilian team before that, but like not for long. It was like a month or two or something like that. And then it was like a completely different org that wasn't in CS, you know. And yeah, we thought that was really cool. So that's why we went with them.
Right, obviously, in this time period where, again, the results were all good, you had like the Starladder tournament, you had like a deep run in, you had this IEM Beijing where, aside from losing to Astralis, who, by the way, were obviously back at the top of the scene, everyone else it looked like was beatable. Right, I remember the theme of this particular era because, as you said, in the semi-final at the Major, you maybe even were a favourite to win that and go to the final. This just shows, by the way, why being a pro player does suck. When you get to the point where you get some good results, people aren't like, yeah, congrats, they're like, now, why didn't you win? Why didn't you ever win, though? This became like the theme, right? The theme was like, will 100 Thieves win an event? So my question to you would be this. Was it a team that ever had, like, do you think it was a team that had problems under pressure? Was it a team that if you were in a position where you were a favourite, it was harder to play? How would you explain what stopped 100 Thieves from winning a tournament?
I think, I don't know, because like you say, we did have like a really deep run at Beijing, but we played Astralis. It's like not many teams beat Astralis, you know what I mean? So I feel like if we had like one of those tournament wins or something like that, like just something that gave us confidence, we could just like exploded. That's how I feel like, at least. But it's just like I think maybe the overall team couldn't really deal with the pressure the way that other teams dealt with pressure. And I think as well as that, we did kind of have like an isolated way of playing the game, you know, like I feel like we had the same coach for so long, we've had the same players for a long time, we know the way that we play CS, and it's kind of hard to change the way that we play to adapt to like other teams and stuff like that. And like maybe like we didn't have like the best experience of like doing things like I don't know, anti-strat or something like that. Like these other teams, I feel like they have like a lot more exposure to the way other people run teams. Maybe they have like more ideas of like how to do certain things. We kind of just do the things like our way, and maybe our way wasn't good enough. That's kind of what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
And yeah, I think we definitely came close, but it's always like, you know, we played Astralis in that Beijing thing. We've had a really close first map, and then we just got blown out the next two. But I think we got blown out because we had a super close first map. We could have won, and everyone thinks about that game. Then we lose the next two maps, kind of thing. But yeah, I think like I think if we kept going, like if LANs kept going, because I remember in 100 Thieves after, just before COVID, we played Katowice and we made playoffs again.
Yes.
And we lost to Fnatic, and both games they were like overtime, like 19-16 or something. If we won that, we would have been semis, you know. And it's like little games like that where I feel like those defining games where I feel like if you won those games, everything could have been different. And yeah, I feel like we definitely did kind of, so under pressure, we made some mistakes sometimes, but we also were a really good team at bouncing back, because like before that Katowice when we made playoffs, we bombed out in Blast, and I think we bombed out of the Pro League Odins before that. So, well, not bombed out, but we didn't do good. We played like 7th to 8th or something like that. And then we're one of those teams where like we can always bounce back. I think we have like really good resiliency on that team, and it's just unfortunate that like we couldn't ever capitalize on any of those games or any of those wins, because I feel like it could be completely different. And not to like compare the teams, but like for example, Luminosity when they were Brazilian squad, they had like a bunch of events where they came like fourth, and then they came second, and then they won. But they got over that hump and they won, and then they became super good. I'm not saying like our team could have done that, but like it could have been a lot different if we managed to do that. For example. So, yeah.
Let me ask the other side of that question then, because I agree with you. Like some of the things, like your team was a little bit predictable, is one thing you were sort of saying there, you know, because even you yourselves kind of stuck to certain things. I would say there was also a charm to that, though. Like I think one of the things that I always found interesting about your team is your team and Ents were the teams where I always thought if you looked on paper, you would never think these teams would have a chance to be against, you know, the big teams of the world. Like obviously someone like FaZe Clan on paper would look at, holy fuck, they should beat them every time. But actually, if you looked in the game, your team seems to actually have a pretty good understanding of the fundamentals. Like as you say, people sort of all knew what their role was in the team and how to play it. And it seemed like it was basically, I would describe it as a comfortable team, right? People knew what they were doing in the game and it works.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. I think that's the perfect way to describe our team. Everyone was like really comfortable and everyone knew their spot in the team. Everyone knew what was expected of them. And yeah, it's just unfortunate that, like I said, we couldn't capitalize on any of those wins. And when I watch those games back, like some of those games, we do the fundamentals and basics like really well. And we have like good team play. I felt like that was like our main identity as a team. Like we're a very good structured team, but some rounds we will just lose and we will look like complete noobs. And I feel like that's just like the pressure getting to us or something like that. And when you watch like the best teams, for example, Australis, they're really structured, they have really good team play, but they don't make those like small mistakes on like those important rounds. And I think that's just the difference between those teams. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's like a player thing, or maybe it's just like a team thing. But I think like yeah, we just couldn't really close out some of those games overall. But like you said, I think we didn't have like one single star player on the team. You know what I mean? Like I think everyone performed pretty well, and I think everyone knew their spot on the team, and I think everyone like just meshed well together. And I think that's what makes a good team, right? So yeah.
During the online period, aside from the very beginning when there was the whole thing with like Cassard leaving and all that jazz, the team actually looked like it was pretty good. Like things still went generally fairly well. You had like a little bunch of decent placings, right? What do you actually think, aside from the fact that eventually, you know, that everyone knows 100 Thieves departed from the space and all that jazz, what do you think the challenges of the online period were like? Because like I say, it wasn't like your team was one of the ones that just bombed completely. And the fact that there was no land, there was nothing. But I'm sure it was also different, right? Like it's different when online results matter and they're all that exist. Like, did you actually try to play the game differently to adapt to it? Did you hope Lands was coming back 2 months later, like I know certain the infamous European teams did?
I think it was a bit of both, honestly, because I'll just say, like, first of all, our team, even all the way back to like Voxemina, like maybe back like in the very start of Renegades, we played some online events, but pretty much like 90% of the entire team, like from Vox to Renegades to 100 Thieves, we always played LAN events. I don't think we ever really played any online. Like we did play every now and then. We played some online qualifiers, but it wasn't like this, for example. And I think, and in those online qualifiers, I don't think we really did too well. I think we're just always kind of just like a LAN team. As weird as that sounds, I felt like some people more than others stepped up on LAN a lot more than they did online. And of course, when you're at LAN, there's, you know, more expectations of you. You feel like you're at the event, you know, like this is the tournament, let's go. Everyone, like you have the media, you get there, you have the day off, you have the media day, you play, everyone knows the structure and stuff. Whereas like online, it's like, you just rock up to the PC and you just play, you know, like it's kind of like it feels like another practice kind of thing. Especially during that period, like after a while, it definitely felt like very repetitive. And I think we did have some good results. I think we had like a bunch of second placings. And I think we always lost to Furia from memory. And I think we always had kind of trouble playing those guys because they were just so wild. Like they would just do like crazy random shit. And I mean, props to them. They were really good at it. They're super comfortable the way they play, but we just didn't really match up well versus them as a team. And I think like I don't think like winning any events would have made a difference to 100 Thieves. Maybe like if we won like multiple in a row, it might have made a difference. But I think like just because it was online, you know, none of us are really big on social media. We do the content that they tell us to do, but it's not like we're mega stars or anything like that. Like, what are they really getting out of us, you know, other than like paying us our salary and stuff? Like, I don't think it was really worth it for them. I think like going to LANs and stuff, it would have been much more worthwhile, for them, because they can get like exposure for their sponsors and all that stuff. So I think it's just one of those things where like, I don't think it was necessarily our fault, but the org kind of wanted to pull out because of COVID, and like I don't think they were making like money off us or anything like that. Maybe something like that. But yeah, the online period, like overall, was definitely, it was nice because we had like our own lives for a start. Like we could, we stayed in LA, we had our own apartments and stuff. Like it was really nice. I actually felt like a normal life. But it's just unfortunate that, like, it's very repetitive playing those online games in COVID, and it's just honestly, it is pretty shit playing online CS. So I think, like, yeah, in the end, it was just like kind of hard for us to play online CS.
During most of the time you were in Renegades, especially the early years, the two big names in Renegades obviously was JKS and Azza, and you were the two that remained basically connected through this whole time period, even as all the other names came in and out. Was there actually a sense between the two of you at any point in time, like, we are just the two that are going to stick together? Like, was it just happenstance that you were the two that made it through all the cuts and all the ups and downs and things? Did you have some sort of special connection?
I think we played really well together most of the time. I don't think, like, as people we're super close to each other. I think obviously we're longtime friends. I've known Aaron since like 2008 or something like that, even before I joined Vox. It was like 2009, 2010. But even before joining Vox, I knew Aaron, and I think in game we have different play styles for sure, and I think that's why on the team we stayed for so long. Like, he's the IGL. Or after a while he became the IGL, but he's also like kind of an aggressive player, whereas I'm like a lot more passive. So like it's kind of easy to have those roles on the team. And I think maybe throughout those rosters, like one of us could have got replaced or went to another team, but the way it panned out is we stuck together. It's not like we had like any special talks or anything like that. Like, we're staying together forever or anything like that. It's just kind of the way it worked out. And I think we worked well together for pretty much most of the time. Even if we didn't have like the best results and stuff, we always got like along pretty well together. And I think we had the same goals and like the same vision for the team and stuff. I don't think we ever really butted heads on like how we should play or like who we should pick up and stuff like that. So I think it's just one of those things where like it just felt natural.
Normally, people would just, from the stereotypes, not think someone who's an aggressive or an entry player would ever be a good IGL, because, like, the perception of those players, it's the strength and the weaknesses. They're supposed to sort of not think about whether this is a good fight to take. Just run in there and get fucking shot in the head or shoot everyone in the head. Like, it's not really thought of as the thinking man's role in Counter-Strike, right? But I was actually, if you just look at the results when Azza became an IGL, like, I've not in the team, so I can't know what calls he's making, but it looks like it's a fucking good setup. Like, this team with many different players over the years managed to find success. So how would you describe his transition to be an IGL, or what sort of IGL was he?
I don't think he wanted to become the IGL. I think he was kind of put in that position after the team made a couple of decisions. And I think it just made most sense at the time for him to be IGL. I think we struggled to find an IGL, and that's why he became the IGL. But Aaron's always been like the type of player to always help the secondary caller kind of thing. He's always helping the IGL with like calls and stuff like that, and just like giving him ideas and like the way that we should play the game. Like he has like a pretty good understanding of like how he wants to play the game, and I think that's why he wasn't always an IGL, of course, but I think that's why he makes a good IGL. And I mean, I think he just has a really good understanding of the game. He watches a lot of games, and he's not like the type of guy to come to practice and bring like 20 new strats or anything like that, but he has like a good understanding of like the way that the game is played fundamentally and the basics of CS. And I think that's kind of what you need in an IGL. And of course, when we're at LAN, he most of the time he's like really hype, and it's nice to have an IGL who hypes other players up on the team. Obviously, it makes everyone else on the team feel a lot better, and I think he was really good at that most of the time. And I think other than those two things, he's just like kind of a natural IGL, I guess you could say, even if he didn't want to IGL. And I think I probably did take away from some of his firepower when he became an IGL, and I think that's just normal, right? Like, you have a lot more to focus on, and it's like a lot harder to micromanage everyone on the team and also play well at the same time. So I think it was really nice that he became the IGL, and after a while we had success, like it paid off for him. I think it would have sucked if he became the IGL and it wasn't his choice, and then we bombed out of everything and then he got replaced or something like that. So it's nice to see that like he became the IGL and we had a lot of success with him and it worked out, and now he's still IGL because I think he enjoys it.
Since you had been viewed as the star player of 100 Thieves Renegades, when you joined compLexity, there were two angles that I thought were obvious as like a outsider. One is most people thought actually compLexity was a good team, but there was a reason they weren't like the champion of all the big tournaments. They'd only had the odd run that was really exceptional. And most people thought, right, they're one star player away. So the perception was when JKS joins, this is supposed to be it. Like, this is supposed to be like, right, we're going to the top now, boys. And then the other angle is this. It's one thing if you're a star player on a smaller team, in fact, for a smaller region, right? There's not as much pressure in that regard. Like you can play well, and someone might even though it's kind of a fucked up thing to say, well, you played well, but everyone else just sucked on your team, right? Not really what players want to hear, but I know people mean well when they say it, right? The difference is on this sort of a team though, JKS, the other perception is JKS just got the bag. Like he's being paid a very nice salary now. It's not the old days when we were Renegades wondering how many thousands and if it's even coming this month. Yep. It's coming for real. It's supposed to be mega bucks. So the pressure now must be its absolute maximum, right? When you joined this team, did you know what you were sort of stepping into and accepting here? Did you have a similar thought? Did you think like this is my chance to go to the absolute top?
I mean, talking about compLexity is like opening up like a whole nother can of worms compared to like Renegades and stuff. You know, like there's so many things around that move that like not defined, but like it was a big step for me. For starters, when I joined the org, and even like to the end, I never really thought about like the salary or anything that I was receiving and stuff like that. Like it never really bothered me. I don't even think I even saw any people who were saying that. Maybe because I don't really read a lot of what people say, but that never really bothered me. It was more just like leaving 100 Thieves and Renegades. It kind of for me was like at the time, you know, I felt really good in myself. I felt really good about my skill and like the way that I was playing the game and my understanding of the game. And you know, 100 Thieves was stepping out of CS, and I was like, okay, this is my time. I've played with these guys for so long. I'm gonna go a different path, see where it takes me, and this is like, you know, something that I want to do as a player, and I think it's something that I needed to do. And I don't, even though obviously the team didn't work out at all, I don't regret leaving the team, and I don't regret joining compLexity. Like maybe it wasn't the best choice overall, and maybe I should have done some more research and like been more careful, but I don't regret making that decision because I felt like I needed to do it, and obviously it didn't work out too well. So I mean, it is what it is. It could have been really good, and it wasn't. So I don't regret doing that at all. And I think I grew a lot as a player during this time. It's just like, yeah, I think like we just had way too many stars on the team to make anything work, and I don't really think it's necessarily all my fault either. I know some people do say that in the comments, and like some people have those opinions, but it's not like I was only thinking about the money or something like that.
Right, one thing I noticed when you joined the team that a lot of people didn't bother to question, I thought the same thing, but I thought the extreme version of this was what happened at the end when coldzera joined, because I remember when he joined going like, how many spots are there for people who are going to lurk and be passive? Like, there's normally one, or, you know, it depends what side of the map you're on, you can sort of do it. So in this scenario, you had three. When you joined already with BlameF, like, wasn't there already like a bit of overlap? I imagine there must have been like some kind of like, someone must have had to give some space, someone must have had to adapt. So how would you explain how you made the team work initially?
When I first joined the team, I was given like my pretty much the same role that I had in 100 Thieves, and I think the first 1 or 2 tournaments, I think it worked fine. I think we had a decent showing. I don't remember too much of that period back then, but I know that just naturally, if I joined a new team, I'm going to play the same way that I played before. So I was given the same kind of spacing and everything like that joining this team, and I played the same way that I played in 100 Thieves or Renegades before. Just because, like, I'd never played with these guys before. I want to play as confidently as I can play in my positions. I'm going to do what I did before. But yeah, after like I think like the second tournament in the team, when I was in the team, I think we lost to Vitality in the semis, like in Beijing or something like that, the online event, and they eventually won that event. And I think they were like the best team towards the end of 2020. It was like kind of. The vibe in the team was like really weird. Like people kind of exploded in a way. Like people weren't happy with the result and stuff like that, and like we had like a big argument or something. And for me, just being the new guy, like it was super weird. You know, like a second tournament. It's not something I'm used to, especially like considering like my old team, where like the way that we played events and stuff like that. the vibe was like a lot different, and kind of felt like this was a little bit of the turning point in the initially, like in the early stages, like you said. I felt like this was a little bit of a turning point where like everything kind of went downhill after the second event. We had a bunch of bad results. Poison needed to take time off to recover from surgery, which means we had a number of events using stand-ins. And I think there was like 3 or 4 events in a row in like the spacing of like 1 or 2 months where we just played awful because we had a stand-in. And I mean, the atmosphere in the team was pretty much just dead at this point. And it was really weird because I was like 2 or 3 months into the team, so like it was like super weird for me coming from like my old team and then having to come into this. And yeah, I think like initially I had no problems playing in the team, like for the first like 2 tournaments. But then after a while, I realized that like these guys want me to change my playstyle, and maybe I should change my playstyle. And I tried pretty hard to do that. I think I tried to play a little bit more like how Obo did on the previous team because they had some success with him. And I tried to be a little bit more aggressive. Looking back, obviously I wasn't as aggressive as I should be, clearly. And I didn't really do a good job of that. But I just came from a team where I played like 6 years doing the same shit. And like I had like all the spacing I wanted. I could do like pretty much anything I wanted. Like it was kind of hard for me to adapt. And I wish earlier on in complexity I was better at adapting to like things that they wanted me to do. But I mean, I just wasn't, and it's not like I was only thinking about the money or anything like that. I was really disappointed in my own performance. Like, I was really disappointed, and to have such high expectations of myself coming into that team, like the way I played previously, making top 20 and stuff like that, obviously, like I had really high expectations of myself, and I wanted to do good. And like I said when I joined the team, I wanted to win events and stuff, and like it just sucks that it didn't work out. And just with like all the other issues in the team that we had at the time, it was just like, I don't know, it's just like a super stressful period. And I don't think I played anywhere near to the level that I could have, but I think that's for a number of reasons.
Right, and a player I want to ask about in this team was the in-game leader, BlameF, because obviously, on the one hand, I noticed during pretty much the entire time until I think pretty recently, he always had actually a very positive perception of the community because stats-wise, he was always killing it. He always had really high stats. And then I think it was a bit more questionable how good he was as an IGL. I'm just saying, like, the team itself was never really that great. But okay, they were also doing all right, or they'd have the occasional run in tournaments where they looked good. So most people, and then simultaneously, he had that weird thing where, because once he mentioned, like, I'll watch loads of demos, every fan repeated that every day as though, like, every day, he was watching 500 whatever. We all get we all know how Reddit narratives work. So the question I had was this. I have my own, I always wonder actually what it's like to play with specific in-game leaders, what they're good at, what they're not as good at. It's something overblown, is over it. But I was actually quite shocked when I did my reflections with Rosh after he'd left complexity, obviously not on the best terms. And he sort of actually, like, by the way, of all the people, like, Rosh is a fairly chill guy, like, he's not just going to talk shit for no reason. So yeah, when he was kind of like saying, like, he sort of gave me the gist that, like, maybe BlameF calls a little bit too much around himself. Like, I was already getting memories of, if you know, the old school happy meme from Envious, where it's like, like, listen, he would win, but it was sort of like, we're going to win through me. Like, I'm going to call shit that's going to make it work for me, and then we'll figure it out beyond that. There was some of that vibe I was kind of getting from him. Like, is this overblown? Was there some kind of dynamic like this in the team? Because obviously it will always look weird if the in-game leader's like the top fragger.
I think just as like a player, I think BlameF is like a really good CS player. He has like really good fundamentals. And I think like he's a really good CS player in that he's gonna get the kill, like he practices so much, and he's just like, fundamentally, he's really strong, and he has a lot of knowledge about the game. He watches a lot of matches, and I think that's definitely like one of his strengths. Like you said, like he does watch a lot of demos. Maybe not like as many as people say, but like he does watch a lot, and he has a really good work ethic, and like I appreciate all that, and it's it's really good traits to have. But like in saying that, I also do think like what Russ said was kind of true. Like the team is played around him, but that's also because he is the IGL. He brings the things to the team, and like, I mean, that's just how it is, right? Like he puts in all the effort and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, that's just the way that the team was run, and I think that's the way that they had success previously with Obo, and I think that he just wanted to continue that. And I mean, obviously it worked out for a little bit with them, and he wanted to keep making it work, and yeah, but unfortunately, like between like me and him, I think like we're both pretty good at the game, and I think we both also have like really similar playstyles, but I just don't think that we really fit well together when we're on the team, whether it's like inside or outside the server. And I never really felt too comfortable playing with him because I know that he likes to play the way that I like to play, and when he's the IGL of the team, the captain of the team, like to make the team work. When you're the new guy coming into the team, like I don't want to come into the team and change everything the way that they already had success with. I don't want to change like all that, and I don't want to come in and say like, I want to do it this way. I want to be here. I want to be there. I want to do this. Blah blah blah. And like when he's the captain and IGL of the team, and the team is heavily played around him, it was difficult for me to try and play the way that I was so used to playing for all those years that I was on the previous team. And I just wanted to fit in and make sure that the team still functions properly while I do that. And obviously, I didn't play very well when I did that, and I think that's for a number of reasons, not because I didn't try or anything like that. I think it's because of all the other issues in the team that we had, and some which I think weren't really resolved before I joined. But yeah, sometimes two players on the team don't fit well together, and I think that's just a story of him and myself, and we didn't find a way to mesh well together. But yeah, that's basically it. I think in Astralis, he'll do really well just being a player and being under Glaive. I think he'll do really well. He won't have to focus on everyone else in the team and run the team the way that he thinks it should be run and depend on all the other people in the team. So yeah.
Right, you referenced earlier like egos in the team and stuff, which I think would actually maybe shock some people from outside, because it wasn't a team that had a lot of drama surrounding it or rumours that there was upset or anything. All I'll say is this: people might have seen recently there was some news that came out, a report about a certain player in the team, and maybe he was a bit lazy, let's say, or wasn't as diligent as he should have been. And obviously, again, without naming names, all I'll say is when someone has a reputation like, for example, separately Config had in his career, where he was thought to be, a bit overconfident, you could say, maybe a bit of an arsehole at times. Like when people change, they don't change like 180 degrees. He wasn't like having a fucking acoustic guitar, like handing out flowers to everyone after that. There's a little bit of that's always there. There's always some of that remains, right? In this team, towards the end especially, it sounds like from the outside, like it was just a bunch of massive egos. People were getting a lot of money. The expectations are enormous, and you can't live up to it as a squad. So what were the last period like in compLexity? It sounds like it's pretty challenging.
Yeah, no, for sure. It was really challenging. I think the whole time that was in compLexity, for me at least, it was super challenging. I can't speak to like their team before I joined. I think when they had Obo, they were a really good team, and I think like since I joined, it was just like a series of like trying to plug one hole after another, just trying to just put duct tape over it or something like that, and we weren't really addressing like any of the problems. And of course, like we had like a bunch of stand-ins and shit like that, and I swear to God, we played like 8 or 9 events with a stand-in. Like, it's just crazy. Like, I've never experienced like anything like that before, and it's just like super annoying to play like under those conditions as a player. And I'm sure anyone else on the team would say the same thing. And I know it's not anyone's fault. Some of those like things were like surgeries and stuff like that. And like Poison needed to get surgery for his eye. It took like 2 or 3 months off. Config broke his hand. Like, it's just like crazy the shit that happens, and like the things that we had to go through. Like some of it was out of our control, of course, like those things that I said, but towards the end, it definitely wasn't like really easy. And like it's kind of just like one of those things where like towards the end, this team isn't really going to go. Like at the start it's different, you think that the team's going to do really well and you have faith in the lineup and everyone is motivated and stuff, and then towards the end it's like this team's not really going anywhere, like what are we doing kind of thing. Like it's hard to like give everything to the team when you have like all these issues. Like there's just so many issues in the team, and it's just like it's definitely very draining to like put all your effort into it and have like base your entire life around this team when like all this stuff is happening. And that's basically it, honestly. Like I don't really want to go too much into it, but the team just had like so many issues that like it's just like really hard to be motivated as a player. And everyone else on the team can probably say the same thing, and it's basically it.
Right, even with all that said, at the end, when this weird move out of nowhere, coldzera just joins the team, it looked like it was going to cause a little like turnaround though. Like in Blast, you guys were doing some upset results, etc. Then you came to the RMR though, and the results at the RMR, like there's another thing, people will look and see how they didn't get out the group stage. Like how many of these games were like on a knife edge, like 1 or 2 rounds at the end just cost you it. Like the team almost got the shit together and made the major, right?
Yeah, like I think out of all the players that we could have got as like some like a permanent stand-in, I guess you could say, like someone for like 1 or 2 months and to play the major with, Cold was probably the best option. He has so much experience, especially at majors. Like even though we have like a different like a playstyle clash between 2 or 3 of the players, like we still managed to like change the way that we play as players to try and make it work. And I think like a lot of these games were really close, like you said, like 16-13, 16-12 and so I don't know, it's best of one as well. Like you lose like the pistol round and stuff like that. Like it is really hard to come back in those games. So I think a lot of those games were really close, and it sucks that we couldn't really make it work. But if I'm being completely honest, I don't think we really deserved to make that major at all. For the things that were happening before, leading up to that event, like we didn't really have much practice time. Like people had personal issues and stuff like that. Like I don't think we really deserved to even make the major or qualify for the RMR, even though we made it really close. I think we could have, but I don't think we really deserved it, honestly. And yeah, I think that's kind of just the story of the team, to be quite honest with you. Like we had, like you said, so many close losses at that major, but we also had, or RMR, but we also had that throughout the entire time in the team. Like there were so many, like there was an unusual amount of tournaments where we would lose important best of threes, like 16-14 on the third map and miss out on playoffs, or we would win the first map and we'd be like 14-7, 15-7 or something up in the second map, and somehow we'd lose the series. And that means we wouldn't go to playoffs or we wouldn't qualify for a big tournament. Like we had like an unusual amount, like so many games where it was like that. And just when, we think that we can, even when we had a stable lineup, this is not with Cold, but even when we had like a stable lineup, if we managed to close out some of those games, it could have been a lot different and people would have had more confidence as a team. And yeah, unfortunately, like just when you don't lose, like when you don't win those games, like it really hurts the team. And I think we had a lot of those on top of everything else that we had to deal with, like all those other issues in the team. So it's just like, it's just crazy the amount of things that went on in that team. And yeah, we did have some good events here and there, and where we did play really good as a team, we definitely looked great. Like that Blast event, for example, in February or something like that at the start of the year, I think we won every game 2-0. It was like Vitality, G2, and EG or something like that, and we played super well as a team. And that was like one of our most stable periods when Poison came back. And yeah, it's just unfortunate that we could never really capitalize on any of those events or games where it wasn't a really important match and we just didn't win. So yeah.
It wasn't that many months into your time on compLexity that your old teammates from 100 Thieves Renegades basically remade the squad in EXTREMUM, and obviously they had BlameF eventually replaced what would have been the JKS position, right? At the time, there were rumours, that's what I want to ask, is this even plausible? Was there really ever a world where you could have then immediately just left compLexity and gone and joined this team? Like, I'm sure they must have asked, right? Was this ever actually floated on the table?
I mean, I spoke with them, like I speak with them all the time. There was never like an official offer or anything like that, and like you said, they did get BlameF, and I think they were happy with him. And even if I wanted to, I think it would have been impossible because I just joined compLexity. They paid like a massive buyout and all this stuff. So I don't think it ever would have been really possible. But there was definitely times where like things were so bad in compLexity, and like the mood was so bad, and I'm living in hotels the whole fucking time, and I just like I'm hating my life. Where like I definitely did think like, oh, maybe I should just go back to where I'm comfortable or something like that. But like, even if I did want to do that, it would be super, like, it probably wouldn't even be possible. So I kind of just tried to ignore that because I don't think that would have made me play any better on compLexity. And I kind of just had to, keep focusing on what I was doing, trying to play better, trying to do whatever the team wanted me to do at the time to fit in. And yeah, I never really thought too much about it, just because I know that if I did keep thinking about it, then it would have just made me play even worse on compLexity. But to answer your question, it wasn't really ever discussed or anything like that. There wasn't like an official offer.
Right, as you alluded to, there was this crazy period, especially while you were in call, where they had all those stand-ins and people going in and out of the lineup, and it was never really like the true five-man lineup, and then let's see how it does for like 4 months. Right, during this period, as you said, because you were like one of the last to join the team, people bizarrely did make it like JKS killed the team or something, even though it's like, what, by just not fragging people enough? Like, it seems like a bit of a tenuous argument anyway. But my question would be this. I know some people's perception might have been you came from a smaller team where you were like the starts, like the old thing we say in English, like the big fish in a small pond, feels great to be in that situation sometimes, even when things aren't going as well. Then you join the big team with all the pressure, as we say, like big expectations. It's like if you join a football team or something, if people know how much money you're on, they're going to criticise you more if they know you're the star player or whatever and you don't score enough goals. So my question would be this. People's worry if they don't know JKS and they don't know the dynamic of compLexity, and like I said, some of the things with the egos and the things around the team, they might worry like, oh, did he just like lose passion for the game? Was he practicing as much? Was he motivated to still be a top player? Basically, where would you say, where's JKS at today?
I mean, like when I joined that team, when I joined complexity, I think I said in a HLTV interview or something like that, at this point in my career or something like that, I just want to win tournaments and stuff. And like I truly believed that when I said it, and I still believe that now. Even like it's really hard to be motivated during like all the COVID stuff and playing multiple online events over and over. But it's like something like I don't really feel like I have achieved like anything that I want to achieve in this game. Like being top 20, that was a big achievement for me. That was something I really worked towards, and that was something I really wanted. But there's also like other things like winning multiple events and stuff like that, and it's something that I wanted to do in CS just because I played the game for so long, and was like, what can I show for it other than the top 20? And obviously like major semis and stuff like that, being a first Australian team and all that stuff. But I wanted a little bit more than that. I don't think I've lost motivation at all. It's just people need to realize that like moving away from home and friends and family, and then moving away from like the team that you're comfortable with for 6 years, and then living in a hotel during COVID the entire time, playing online events, not having success in the team, playing with multiple stand-ins over and over and over again, having all these issues with players in the team, like personal issues and tension between players. It definitely, like, how can you be comfortable and play at your best when you have all these problems and like all these things happening? So I don't think it's necessarily like, it definitely is my fault to an extent. Like I don't think I played good at all on complexity, and I think like I was a little bit slow to adapt early on, like to what they wanted. I wish I could just, as soon as I joined the team, I wish I could have been the player like that just did anything, and like I was confident at it and I was really good at it, because I think I would have been a really good player. And I think I'm better at that nowadays, like more willing to do like pretty much anything that the team needs me to do, as long as like they're all on board and they want to do it as well, and like just being confident to do like whatever I have. I think I'm better at that nowadays because I've learned so much being on this team, even though like it was overall a negative experience for me. I think I've learned like quite a lot as a player, and I think like I'll always know how to play the way that I played before that, like on Renegades and 100 Thieves. And I think if there's a positive to take from all of that in this team, it's just like that I've learned how to play differently as a player. And nowadays I think like I am more of a complete player. It's just hard when the team environment isn't very good, and then there's like, like I said multiple times, it's like so many issues and stuff with stand-ins and all that. It's hard to be like a consistent player like I was before, where like I thrived off being consistent, having like routines and stuff, and like knowing like everyone on the team and like what they like to do and stuff like that, and being comfortable in the team. I think that's like one of the most important things. It's just like, yeah, I think people just need to understand that, and like a lot of what they say about like me not playing good and stuff, it's definitely true. I agree with that, but yeah. I think people just need to understand like my side of it as well, and like all those issues.
Is the goal going forwards to be on just another international team? Could be an NA team, could be a team in Europe. Is the plan to going forwards to have like ideally a call level team to be on?
I think that's really my only option in CS, and I'm definitely not against that at all. I don't think like I think a lot of the top teams nowadays, they're all like from the same country, like the same nationality. And I think that's definitely a big benefit, and I know that it's a big benefit because I was on an Australian team which had success beforehand, and I know what it's like to play with people who are like all culturally the same. So I think that is definitely like a big benefit, and I wouldn't mind in the future playing with like an all Australian team again. I wouldn't mind like coming up through the scene again, doing like what I did before, with all the young players now. And but right now at least, I still feel like I have a lot of things to prove as a player, and I think like I haven't really done anything that I set out to do when I left 100 Thieves to join complexity. And yeah, I think that like now that lands and stuff are coming back, and or hopefully most of the lands are coming back, that I can kind of prove that at least next year, if I get an offer from a team or something like that, now that I'm on the transfer list from complexity and benched. So yeah, definitely have like a lot of goals, and I'm definitely still just as hungry as like when I joined complexity. I think like I now even have more to prove than I joined complexity. When I left 100 Thieves, I was kind of like, I had a lot of expectations from everyone, even myself, and I think nowadays it's like not so much because of the way I played on complexity. So I think I have a lot to prove to everyone again.
At the end of this interview, do you have any final words, or is anyone you want to thank or say hello to?
I just want to thank. I know like a lot of people say negative stuff about me and the way that like my time on complexity was, but I know there's a lot of people who also say positive things. So I appreciate like all those fans who have stuck by me, even though maybe this last year hasn't been like super successful or anything like that, and we did have like a lot of hiccups. It really means a lot to me, and I know like I'm not like super active on social media or anything like that, but I do read like quite a lot, so I do see like a lot of the nice comments and stuff like that. And yeah, that's basically it. If any team wants to hit me up, feel free. And yeah, that's basically it.
This video was kindly supported by Lagger15, Matt Pugnatio Racula, Travis Goff, Zach Smid, Adam Oakes, Alexander Rao, Animosity, Blake McGuinness, Bot Pounder 420, Hades, J Dobbs, Jensen Go, Joseph Ginsberg, Kovacevic, Tobias Bernasconi, Zumba, Zyrathenia, and a special thanks, of course, goes out to Jerky's Minion and DZL. Do you want to suggest a topic or a guest for my content? Want to ask me a question in one of my video AMAs? Do you want teasers for who the upcoming guests are going to be? Or maybe you'd like to take part in one of those long donated discussions that I do? Well, put your money where your mouth is and join the Skruminati today via the Patreon link in the description box below.